Fake refugees flooding across our borders. I'm Brian Lilly with the Rebel.media. I have no problem with Canada accepting refugees. It's part of what we do. We help folks that are fleeing war or oppression. Prior to the Syrian refugees, well, one of the biggest groups that we helped in large numbers was a minority group persecuted in Burma called the Karens. These people were seriously oppressed by one of the most oppressive governments in the world. And that's what refugee programs are for. What refugee programs are not for is helping people who walk across our border, illegally I might add, from the United States of America. These people are not refugees, they are fake refugees. They're fleeing a safe country, a country that follows the rule of law, a country that is open and welcoming to others. But now we have story after story of people walking through the snow, crossing over farmers' fields, cutting through the forests to declare themselves refugees in Canada after leaving the U.S. First, it was the hundreds of mostly Somalians walking across from Minnesota into Manitoba. But now we're also hearing about a spike in refugee claims in Quebec. Over the weekend, the RCMP arrested a Syrian family that was crossing into Quebec near the Lacolle border crossing, which is adjacent to New York State. According to CBC, there were 593 people claiming refugee status at the Quebec border in December alone. In January, it was 452. Compare that to January of 2014 when it was just 46. I'm sorry, but you can't show up and claim refugee status. What are you fleeing from? The Americans? Canada and the United States signed the Safe Third Country Agreement in the early 2000s. It was to deal with issues like this. That agreement said if someone presented themselves at a Canada or U.S. border crossing and claimed refugee status, that they were to be turned back. Since they were already coming from a safe country, they should claim refugee status there. But the way that agreement is applied in Canada, well, it only counts at official border crossings. So walk through a field and into Canadian territory, you can claim your refugee status and you're going to be treated like one. As I've said before, for the Somalis crossing into Manitoba from Minnesota, what are they fleeing? It's true there's war in Somalia, but the United States has settled nearly 90,000 Somalis. Nearly 25,000 of them live in the Minneapolis area. I mean, it's a really long flight all the way from Mogadishu to Minneapolis. By the time you're in Minnesota, you're beyond safe. Same with the Syrian family crossing into Quebec. It's a long way from Damascus to Plattsburgh, New York, the closest big town that they would be crossing from. These people are doing illegal border crossings. Well, they're economic immigrants. They want to come to Canada. I get that. Who wouldn't want to come to Canada? It's great here. But here's the deal. Follow the rules. It's not like we don't encourage people to come here. We take 300,000 immigrants a year, about 250,000 foreign students, a similar number of temporary foreign workers. We welcome lots of people, but we ask one thing: do it properly. Don't break the law, we're likely good. But when you start your relationship with your new host country by breaking the law, I don't know about you, but it kind of sours things for me. I'd get it if there was war or real oppression in the United States. There's not. You can point to Donald Trump's travel suspension, the so-called Muslim ban, all you want. One, it's temporary. Two, it's being struck down by the courts. Like I said, the U.S. is a nation that follows the rule of law. The other reason this is a problem is that these people, they're now sucking up resources that could be helping those fleeing actual war and oppression who aren't safe yet. The Syrian family arrested and processed on the weekend near Lacolle, Quebec, they weren't turned back. They were taken to a processing center, and they've likely been let go by now, and they're going to have a hearing before the Immigration and Refugee Board. We have people in this country encouraging this kind of behavior. And on top of that, you've got Lead Now and No One is Illegal calling for essentially open borders by telling Trudeau to drop the Safe Third Countries Act altogether. Then there are places like Ottawa, where left-wing activists at the municipal level are organizing to push for the nation's capital to become a sanctuary city, like Toronto and Hamilton, to adopt a policy that says they don't care what the law says, they'll do their own thing. None of this is good news. The left in this country is organizing to try and use Trump and his election in the United States to overwhelm our immigration system and change it forever. They're hoping that you and your fellow Canadians will be so freaked out by Trump that we will adopt their policies. Well, frankly, no. We need to insist that the laws that we have are followed, that the people sneaking across the border in any way, shape, or form are not rewarded. Because when you reward bad behavior, you get more of it. The Americans learned that on their southern border. Do we want what happened there to be replicated here. If you like the video you just watched, make sure you never miss a Rebel video again. Hit subscribe to get all of our YouTube videos in your feed.